A primary question that's been asked nowadays is, are we close to the top? Have we topped out? Have the altcoins stopped? Or are we going to be close to it? That's why we're going to discuss this question in this video, and I'll share my entire thesis about the upcoming years for crypto. Let's get started. Let's talk about the markets of Bitcoin and the question whether we're close to top. It's my third cycle, so I can say that I've seen some stuff taking place in the markets. I've seen it all, basically, or at least a lot. And I also have seen predictions from people in the history that haven't been right, but I've also got some predictions that haven't been right. So I'm quite familiar with the concepts of bear market PTSD and bull market FOMO. So what is bear market PTSD? It means that at the start of a bull cycle, the expectations of people are way less than reality is going to be. Why is that? Well, people have been enduring a 2-year or 3-year or 4-year bear market and are basically expecting historical price action to happen again. That's why they underpredict the expectation or the estimation of the markets to go up more than what they are expecting. On the other hand, we have bull market euphoria, which leads to exceptional expectations at those highs, unrealistic, where the expectations are also that there won't be any heavy correction taking place. And usually those corrections are going to be more extreme than what they have been expecting at those tops. I mean, recall from myself that I wasn't expecting the markets to go back to 15K when we were trading at 65K in 2021. This principle in itself also relies on the real estate markets and other examples like the stock markets and stuff. So if we look at an example from the real estate markets, then we can just take the Japanese real estate market, which you can see next to me, which shows a very complex chart, which is in yen. That's irrelevant, but you can see that there are 3 colors going up, where it peaked in 1990, which was basically the Japanese bubble. If we look at the Greater Tokyo line, which is the blue line, the highest blue line, it shows that it peaked in 1990, and basically until last year, or actually 2023, you were waiting for those prices to come back. So the importance lies in the fact that having bear market PTSD or bull market FOMO can basically give you a return that's disastrous for your life if you don't have a neutral thesis. So that's why I wanted to bring this up. And then I want to take it back into Bitcoin, which is currently at a crossroads of either saying, hey, we have peaked already, or it's complete nonsense and we go way higher than most of the people are expecting. So then you have got 3 frameworks, which is the S2F, the stock to flow model. And if we look at the stock to flow model, then we can see that historically plan B has been right about a lot of things. Of course, the previous cycle we didn't go to 100K, but if we take the black dots as the average, then we can see that based on that in the previous cycles we have been hitting the actual black dots and sometimes went even higher. And if that's going to be the case for the upcoming cycle, then the projection is that we're going to have a 500K average as the peak of this cycle. On top of that, we've got the rainbow chart, and the rainbow chart has beautiful colors. As you can see, they are outlined, where you can basically value a Bitcoin based on time, based on supply. And in that sense, you can see that on every peak, it goes into maximum bubble territory. In the previous peak, we didn't get there. We did get to FOMO intensifies. But in this case, we are having a valuation of accumulate or still cheap, while Bitcoin is currently trading around 100K, which shows that if we go all the way towards the numbers that are shown here, then likely Bitcoin is going to go above 500K during this cycle. And then finally, we are having a chart here from TechDev, which is comparing the previous cycles in terms of momentum, where you can see that Bitcoin basically didn't have any infection yet, and it's very likely going to occur in the next run upwards. So there is still a big run to come on Bitcoin, and that's where it basically traps everyone. So the question is, why should we actually have been peaking already? Is it because there's N is 1 that the cycle has been peaking earlier because we've seen a peak in May 2021? It should have been having a second rally in November 2021, which was pushed down by FTX and actually being pushed down by macroeconomic environment. Again, N is 1. So that doesn't provide a conclusion that we're going to be peaking really soon or have been peaking. It's actually providing a thesis that we're going to have another run and maybe even have to expand the entire cycle. As right now we've got institutional interest and they are not in here for a 1-year gain. We've got Trump with its sovereign wealth fund that has started at the beginning of this year. And we've got the fact that SEB 121 has been reversed, which basically enables banks to custody Bitcoin, which Jerome Powell has been saying. So what do I expect for Bitcoin? Well, we'll talk about that later. Let's first discuss the altcoin markets. The altcoin markets are completely different than Bitcoin, especially if you look at the ETH ecosystem. And it feels like the entire year of 2024 has been the year of Solana. It has been going up by 500%. It has been carrying the markets. It has been draining the other altcoin markets. As we've seen that multiple altcoins have been, or at least meme coins have been taking off, taking the actual return of many of the investors that used to be just in altcoins in general. So what's the status of overall of the markets? Again, we can spot some interesting charts here, which are important to take a look at. And the first chart is the one from TechDev, which shows that the others chart, valued in dollars, is currently just consolidating at the previous highs, which is just as comparable as we can see in January of 2017, just as comparable as we can see in January of 2021. And in 2017, we ran from 380 million all the way towards 50 billion, massive return. We see from 2021, where we had 40 billion all the way towards 360 billion. And in this case, we are suffering around 360 billion. And it's very likely that indeed we're going to rally somewhere between 2 to 6 trillion, which means that, for instance, Ethereum and the bigger caps are just going to have a lower return as the size of them has been expanding. But it's just showing that there is still, again, there's still that run to come, which is also what we can see on most of the other charts, which is in this case, the others divided by Bitcoin chart shows a massive bullish divergence and a bottoming process indicating that this market is going to reverse before there is going to be more upside taking place. And if we are looking at total 3 divided by Bitcoin, again, that's the altcoin market capitalization divided by Bitcoin or valued in Bitcoin, we can see that we have the longest bullish divergence since its existence, which shows that there is a likely reversal and breakout going to take place in the near future. And you might also question what the actual reason was that the altcoins have not been moving. And there is an interesting chart that Elio has posted here, which was the fact that from January 2024, Pump.fun was launched, which was the meme coin creation or platform on top of Solana, which created the fact that Solana in terms of TVL has been running up. Solana against Bitcoin has been running up. But anything else, the top 125 altcoins as a percentage of the Bitcoin market cap has been going down. So it was taking liquidity, spotting it or using it within Solana, resulting into a negative return for the remainder of the markets. And that is very likely to change in the sense that we have the bullish divergence not only on the bigger altcoin charts, but we also have them on specific altcoin charts. And in this case, we have them on Wormhole, where if these weeks the markets are bouncing back up, providing green candles, this weekly divergence starts to become valid. If we look at Omni, we can see that we are having a downwards trending market since the summer of 2024. And you can conclude that if we build up a bullish divergence since that moment, then we can confirm the fact that the valuations of those altcoins are irrationally low at this point and are likely going to reverse when the macroeconomic dynamics are going to change. And the same can be said on Renzo. I think this entire group of ETH ecosystem coins that have been listed on Binance are quickly going to reverse if the macroeconomic aspect is going to change, where they have been into the largest capitulation on a daily basis since its history, which usually means that the markets are going to reverse, which also means that the altcoin markets haven't topped. In my opinion, there are two scenarios going forward. And if you have been listening to the podcast with you, he basically has the same sort of expectations for the markets. So the first scenario is the 4-year cycle is still applicable, which means that we have one hell of a year where Bitcoin is going to copy paste what we have been seeing in 2017, where it's likely going to be peaking in Q4 of 2025. Final alt season takes place in Q1 of 2026, comparable to the cycle of 2017 in terms of the bubble path. That will be my first scenario. The second scenario for Bitcoin is that the last cycle has peaked too earlier. The cycle has barely started for altcoins. We've had the longest bear market in the altcoins since its existence. We need more liquidity to actually go higher with the actual asset. And then the S&P is going to copy paste the last 4 years of the dot-com bubble with 4 years of 20% returns or more, which is a very rare case and which is basically designing the entire bubble that was happening in the dot-com bubble and might be the case again with AI and blockchain taking place, where if the S&P is going to do that, Bitcoin is going to be the beta play on top of that, where also Trump is going to fuel that entire run, where Bitcoin goes to 1 million and altcoins can go completely wild with irrational valuations, where the entire macroeconomic perspective is going to change, and we will be having the biggest correction or crisis after that taking place, where you can also see that the rainbow chart of Bitcoin, if we get towards extreme numbers, it's getting close towards that million. So that might be an option. And then the question is, what about altcoins? If we talk about ETH, then in case one, there probably is a case that ETH is going to double or provide a 150% return from here, and Bitcoin goes to 300 to 500k. If you do the math, then the prediction for ETH could be between 15 to 20k. And if we talk about other altcoins, and if you look at the fact that Ethereum ecosystem is likely going to do well, then anything within the ETH ecosystem is going to do better, where if we use the previous high as a target for instance, Optimism, it's a 8x or 700% return, and then another 3x on top of what Bitcoin is going to do, yielding a potential price between 20 to 30 bucks for things like Optimism. And that is in case one. Again, we don't know where the markets are going to go to, but most of the upside is still to come. I think the altcoin bull market after this massive collapse of 2 weeks ago have started, and I think that the Bitcoin markets haven't been peaking, and we're still going to have the actual bull run take place, where most of your returns are going to be made as well. So that's my thesis. We'll see in the future what's going to happen, but it looks super bullish. Thank you very much for watching to this update. Next Tuesday, we'll be having Sergey as a guest in our podcast. What should I ask him? Make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel and to the New Era Finance podcast channel. I'll see you again soon. Ciao.